What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another video and welcome to the review roundup of High School Musical. I'm going to be covering all three High School Musical films here in this video that I actually recently covered over on Jacob Martin's channel in separate videos, so I'll leave a link to those down below. A big thanks to Jacob for kind of bringing back this weird, nostalgic yet not so nostalgic franchise for me, and I decided to have a guest on for my video here, and that is my buddy Mike from Did You See That? So a big thanks to him for being a part of this video, and we'll be hearing from him throughout the course of the video. But yeah, High School Musical, before we get into the actual reviews, this is a series that when I was growing up, you know, by the time these movies were coming out, starting in 2006 to 2008, I was starting to get a little bit older, and I was definitely in that era where it was really easy to just kind of have somebody go gay for literally anything you did as a guy in those days. It was just something that was kind of part of the culture, which of course looking back now is so stupid, you know, it's just so childish and immature. But yeah, you know, it was one of those things where sometimes if you were into things that were kind of seen girly, you know, you'd get picked on, or you weren't necessarily the coolest for that. And that's not to say that there wasn't girly-esque things that I enjoyed when I was younger. I don't really even think about things within those parameters anymore. But yeah, you know, it was nice to go back and revisit these films as a movie fan and as a musical fan. Over the years, I've become a big fan of musicals, whether it's, you know, stage performances that you can watch live online or actually in person, or in the case of movies, musicals. So yeah, I love plenty of musicals, and it was nice to go back and revisit these films. But yeah, I do want to kind of start this off by saying that this is a series that I was kind of nostalgic for, because I remember being a kid and hearing these songs and seeing these movies on TV. But yeah, it was not something that I was ever overly attached to. And sometimes when I look back at it, I was one of those kids back then that kind of didn't want to like it, you know what I mean? Because of the fact that I was a boy and it was not for me, you know what I mean? I thought it was cheesy and for girls, and it's so stupid to think that way, but you know, I gotta be honest. So what I'm gonna do a little bit differently with this video is I'm gonna have my guest Mike from Did You See That start us off with his review of High School Musical, then we'll hop into my review for High School Musical, and then we'll jump to the second, and so on and so on. So a big thanks to you guys for watching, and I hope you guys enjoy our review of the High School Musical films. Take it away, Mike.
I'm back on the main man's channel to talk about a series that hit Disney in around 2006 and spanned 2 original movies and 1 theatrical movie, and we're talking about High School Musical. And yeah, my hair is kind of looking around 2006 Zac Efron phrase right about now. But anyway, my man, thank you so much for asking me to be back on this series, where let's get into number 1. I'm not going to talk about the plot because I'm sure you probably already talked about that. And some of the cast, let me just quickly go over them. We've got Zac Efron, Vanessa Hudgens, Ashley Tisdale, Lucas Gabriel, Corbin, Bleu, Monique Coleman. What am I only going to say about High School Musical? Well, let me firstly get into my best song of this original movie. Without a doubt, Breaking Free is the best musical number in this movie, and it's a very catchy number as well. But I also really like they stick to the status quo song, because in around 2006, when I originally checked out this movie, at that time, I guess you couldn't really openly be out and say like, I really love High School Musical, simply because people would call you like gay. Comments that would happen in school, or they'd be like, what are you watching that for, or etc. You'd get bullied if you said you watched High School Musical. Now, the fact that I'm now 31, have a loving girlfriend relationship, and also introducing her to this series for the first ever time, it's really an honour to have checked this out again, and I actually really enjoyed this movie. I would say overall that some of the acting is good, some of it isn't so great. I would say that for me, Zac Efron is definitely the standout in this. You can just see kind of like the star potential radiating off him, and from the years what to come after these movies, yeah, he's definitely broke the mold probably the most. I'd then say Vanessa Hudgens, and then probably Ashley Tisdale, because there was a phase in time where Ashley Tisdale was in quite a few movies like Aliens in the Attic and stuff like that, but then she kind of kind of like went under the radar, but I believe she did have a child at the same time. So what are my ultimate thoughts about the High School Musical movie itself? Well, it's a very catchy musical number, directed by Kenny Ortega, who's done a lot of choreography for Dirty Dancing, Hocus Pocus, Ferris Bueller's Day Off, and so many other movies that are just really big names. So he's definitely got a fantastic resume under his belt. But what I will say about this outing, however, is that all the songs are very catchy. All of them are really, you just want to kind of sing along to, or you just kind of like tap your foot along to, and you kind of feel like that for days after watching it. I even still feel like that now, and I watched this movie a good couple of weeks ago. So what I will also say is what I found hilarious about this movie, and you kind of notice it more now watching it back. So in one of the opening scenes, they're playing one of the basketball games for East High, and there's a point where all of them are singing. So you got Zac Efron singing, you got Corbin Bleu singing, you got the other basketball players singing. And then later on in the movie, when they find out that Zac Efron's Troy Bolton's character is auditioning for the school musical, Corbin Bleu's character is like, well, we've never heard you sing. I was like, dude, you sang with him in the opening number. You heard him sing. I mean, I know it might be like a sequence where it doesn't exist so much in the movie, but I was like, you just heard him sing. That's so dumb. It was just kind of like goofs like that. And there's like one scene where in the cafeteria, I believe it might be Stick to the Status Quo, Ashley Tisdale's actually walking off as she's going down the stairs. And then the next shot, she's actually stood right back in the centre of the room. So definitely the continuation is definitely not so much there. But I will say for a 2006 musical number, such a fun time. But I will say my least favourite character is Ashley Tisdale. By all means, she plays a bitchy character, and I guess in terms of playing a bitchy character, she does the job well in that regard for sure, because you don't like her character. But one of the other funny things for me is that right at the end, they're singing "We're All in This Together," which is a very catchy song, but in the next movie, she's sabotaging them again. So we'll get to that, but in the meantime, man, Anthony Perez, I'm going to hand it back over to you and your remaining thoughts on High School Musical, well, the first movie.
Thanks so much, Mike, for your review of the first movie. Loved hearing your thoughts, and I think you were the perfect person to ask to join me for these movies. And yeah, I kind of loved hearing a little bit more of your history with the movie and the franchise. And before we get too much further into this, I also want to say that the third film is one I had never seen before until this seeding of these films, because that was the one that got the theatrical release, and we'll talk a little bit about that later on. But yeah, at the time, I didn't go to the theaters to see it, and I never really caught it on TV, so I had only seen the first two, and I just felt like I'd share that here before we move too much further into this review. But yeah, High School Musical came out in 2006, and yeah, I definitely remember all the commercials for it on Disney Channel. I remember seeing so much hype and buzz around it. I remember after it came out, going to Disney World, because I lived here in Florida, going to Disney World and just seeing all the High School Musical parades and shows that they would start to add in, and it was definitely starting to grow as a bigger part of the Disney culture in that time frame. Now, I've covered a lot of Disney Channel original movies here on the channel, and you know, a lot of them are pretty bad, and a lot of the ones that are enjoyable are usually enjoyable because of how cheesy they are and how over the top they are. And then there are those that kind of just sit within the category of guilty pleasures because I grew up with them, childhood films that are definitely not good by today's standards, but were enjoyable for me, and going back and revisiting them, I was still able to kind of lean into that enjoyment. But yeah, going back and revisiting these, there was definitely elements about it that I did not really enjoy in terms of the really cheesy Disney Channel stuff, but it would be hypocritical to completely trash on the elements of this film that definitely take me out of it compared to some of the other things that I've praised in other Disney Channel original films. So I do want to make it known right out of the gate that I'm going into these reviews knowing that these are films that have a huge layer of cheese. There are editing issues up the ass. There are tons of little moments throughout the course of these movies that are really funny in terms of maybe green screen backgrounds or anything really when it comes to certain special effects. There are moments where the budget and where the limitations of TV movies were at the time, where that's really present, you know what I mean? Where you can totally tell that that's what's happening. And yeah, this movie is littered with that. There's moments in this movie where you have characters talking and you'll have the same person walking behind them over and over and over again, because they must have done tons of takes and they had that person just kind of walking a circle, and so it just kind of seems like the same person is coming around in a circle behind them over and over and over again. There are moments like that in the editing that definitely make me laugh going back and revisiting a movie like this, but ultimately this movie is about a very simple, straightforward premise of, you know, somebody wanting to do something that they're not usually known for doing. And in the case of this movie, you have Zac Efron as well as Vanessa Hudgens as our lead character, characters, Gabrielle and Troy. And Troy is the basketball star of the school. He's the star basketball player. And over the course of the film, he falls in love with the character of Gabrielle, played by Vanessa Hudgens. And they kind of get swooped into this musical, and he enjoys it. He likes singing. He's discovering that he has a really good voice, and it's something that, you know, his friends start to tease him for. Yeah, you know, he doesn't necessarily know how to pursue what he wants to do here without being ridiculed. And it's that classic high school drama story of kind of wanting to be one thing or break out of the box, and, you know, not necessarily wanting to be judged for it, but then also not caring about that and kind of showing the world what you got. So, you know, there's definitely that Disney Channel cheese message, but it's definitely a good message, and going back and revisiting it, I think it still definitely lands. And I gotta say, in all of these movies, the one thing that just blows my mind is how terrible Troy's friends are in a lot of ways. You know, in a lot of cases, this dude just wants to do something different, like in all these movies pretty much, and in every movie they have a problem with him. Not so much in the third one, but the first two definitely for sure. And it's like, dude, what's the problem? Like, your friend is just trying to do something that's good for them. And that's definitely something I feel from both the first and the second movie, but it's not too bad. Overall, though, this movie is filled with cheesy performances, and, you know, it has a very cheesy premise, but I did find the music to be a lot of fun to go back and revisit. There's tons of little great songs in here, stuff that has gone on to be very, very memorable. There's some very good moments of choreography, though there are some moments and elements that I don't like, with the biggest one in all of these movies being the character of Sharpay Evans, played by Ashley Tisdale. Now, Ashley Tisdale is an actress that I used to watch in the Zac and Cody show back in the day as well, and, you know, she would appear in different Disney Channel stuff or stuff for kids. I don't have a problem with her. I think she's fine. She plays a very samey character in a lot of things, whereas Sharpay is her, you know, big character because it is that very over-the-top, just ridiculously selfish, not good person that she plays, who, you know, is talented but thinks she's overly talented and thinks she's better than everybody. And I think Ashley Tisdale plays that character well, but man, the character is just so frustrating to watch. And in the first movie, you know, you can understand who she is and how she is, and by the end of the movie, you would hope that, you know, when they're all in this together, that she would be part of the together. And moving on to the second film, she's literally the same kind of character, a super malicious character who seems to never learn. And then at the end of the movie, all the characters for some reason choose to give her another chance, even if they've given her a problem, or they kind of keep their distance from her. They kind of let her back in, and they don't want her to feel bad, so we kind of have to sympathize with her. And then in the next movie, she's the exact same again, super malicious, wants all the attention on her, and it's just a problem. So yeah, revisiting this franchise, she was my least favorite part of it. And you know, she's fine in this movie as an antagonist, but she's just such an annoying character to me that honestly, I gotta say, she's my biggest negative from most of these movies. Now, something that's funny about this movie is that Zac Efron did not sing any of the lines in this movie. Apparently his voice was just not ready, so they got another actor to sing all his lines, but he would end up singing in the second and third film in the series, and I think that's just kind of a funny thing. But he did all the dancing in this movie, and I think he did a pretty good job for the most part. And I think without a doubt, when you revisit this film, Zac Efron is the one that you can definitely see has the star power. Going back and revisiting this whole series, it was so clear to me now, more so than it was then, how you know, good he really was in these movies, and ultimately it totally makes sense to me why he would be the breakout star of these movies. Speaking of his co-star though, Vanessa Hudgens, yeah, I found that she wasn't really great for me in this movie. I didn't think she was a good actress at all, and compared to how good Zac Efron is, yeah, she's definitely a lesser part, and I think had they gotten a lesser actor in that lead role, I don't even know if these movies would have been as popular. You also have some other really great people in these films like Lucas Gabriel, as well as Corbin Bleu, Monique Coleman, and so many others. And these films are directed by Kenny Ortega, who did do a lot of the choreography for these films as well. And overall, I do think he has a pretty good vision on what he wants to do in terms of a musical. I think sometimes the story can just be boring and a little bit bland, but the musical numbers are definitely what make these films a lot of fun. Some of my favorite songs in this movie have to be things like Get Your Head in the Game, as well as The Start of Something New, or Breaking Free, or something like We're All in This Together, with my least favorite one probably being When There Was You and Me, or Me and You, something like that. It's the Vanessa Hudgens solo song. Yeah, I'm not really a huge fan of that song. It's definitely my least favorite part. But yeah, going back and revisiting the original High School Musical, I found it to be a good cheesy time with entertaining songs, with annoying characters, and a story that is pretty bare. It's not something I think most people are really going to enjoy today if they've never seen it before, but I did enjoy going back and revisiting it, and I can see some people feeling the exact same way if they're revisiting it, and I can see some people who are into musicals who maybe just missed these going back and having fun with these just on the musical element alone. So let's go ahead and go back on over to Mike for his thoughts on High School Musical 2, and we'll get back to my thoughts on the High School Musical franchise in just a bit.
I'm back, and this time we've got our summer shirt on because we're taking it to High School Musical 2, where we're venturing to the beach / summer breakaway vacation, wherever the hell they are in this movie. And yeah, what can I honestly say about this movie? Well, I've got to say, the worst song I've ever heard in a musical, but probably ever, is Ashley Tisdale and Lucas Gabriel, where she's kind of trying to serenade Troy Bolton at the top of this summer beach house, and the song's called Huma Kuna Napa. I don't even know how to say this song. What a terrible song. Who decided to write that in this movie? It sucks. But onto the good songs. We've got What Time Is It, All For One, Work This Out, but by far the best number in this is Zac Efron's Bet On It. By all means, what a tune that is, and I listened to that repeat for days and days. Even back in the day, I listened to it on repeat and repeat. Such a good song, and I believe in this movie, Zac Efron actually sang vocally, which he didn't in the first movie. Now, it could be because he was getting singing lessons, whatever, but he's a great singer, so I don't really get why he didn't sing in the first movie, but maybe Anthony can answer that one. Anyway, this movie, yeah, I really like this summer and feel and vibe of it all, being honest with you. I feel like it's definitely a departure from the first movie, and they're not just stuck in this one school location. I felt like they kind of made the most of this summer on-set location, which really benefited the movie because it definitely gave a different feel and vibe to it, and also just kind of expanded our characters a little bit more. We get more of a relationship with Troy and Gabriella's character. Corbin, Bleu, and Monique Coleman's characters of Chad and Taylor, they're starting to kind of get together as well. And I like how in this one they also explore about Zac Efron's loyalness, Troy Bolton's loyalness to his friends and his family as such, because he gets offered these amazing scholarships thanks to Sharpay, where she's trying to drive this wedge between the main two leads, which, I mean, she didn't learn a lesson from the first movie, and she's back at it again in this movie, and yeah, she's a bitch. She's honestly a bitch, and I don't like her character at all. They try to give her some redemption arc at the end of this movie, and I'm just like, ship her off 2,000 miles away so she can be nowhere next to this movie, because she adds nothing to it apart from being a two-faced cow. She really, really is. And yeah, I really just don't like her character. That hasn't been emphasised enough already. The acting, again, is okay. At the end of the day, it's a Disney Channel Plus original movie. Again, Zac Efron's character is definitely the best. I don't mind Vanessa Hudgens as Gabriella. I think at times she has some very sweet moments. At times, yeah, she could maybe play it a little bit better. But also, the two goofs in this movie that honestly made me laugh out loud is, for some reason, when they get to this pool scene, Sharpay's character is trying to get Troy over to this summer vacation camp by himself so she can obviously kind of swindle him, whatever. Turns out where all the cast actually come along, which she obviously isn't happy about. Now, Vanessa Hudgens' character of Gabriella is played as a lifeguard, and there's actually a scene where Sharpay falls in the water, and it's a complete different woman jumping in to get her. But the double is terrible. You can tell it was a different person. And then the last goof that really, really made me laugh is there's a scene right at the end where Troy and Gabriella are kissing, they all make up, blah, blah, blah. All for one, right at the end, we get a random cameo by Miley Cyrus, because at this point they had some of the Disney Channel original movie cast appear into the Disney shows, so it kind of makes sense. But then at the same time, you can clearly tell the band who are playing the drums, he's not even tapping the drum. He's not even tapping the snare. He's like, it's like, imagine the drums here, he's got the snare, and it goes to there. And it's just like that, constantly. And I'm just like, what are you seriously doing? At least try to pretend you're playing the drums, because at the end of the day, they're going to alter the sound, what's going on, because they've got the backing track playing anyway. So High School Musical 2, I had a blast with this one. I personally liked it a bit more than the first one, and I like this summer vibe to it. But Van, back over to you and your main thoughts on High School Musical 2.
Thanks again, Mike, for sharing your thoughts on High School Musical this time around on the second one. I look forward to talking about it now myself, and I love that you changed the outfit. Sadly, my outfits are pretty much the same year round, a black graphic tee and some sort of backwards cap. And this is all I got for you. But a big thanks to Mike again for sharing his thoughts, and let's get into my thoughts now on High School Musical 2 that actually just came out the next year, again directed by Kenny Ortega, and has the same returning cast with again Zac Efron and Vanessa Hudgens being our two leading roles in the film. So this time around it's summer vacation, and they actually decide to go get a job at some vacation golf resort where they're now going to be working for this location, and over the course of the film Zac Efron is going to gain some really great opportunities to maybe grow in the world of sports and get a scholarship perhaps, and it kind of gets him mixed up with Ashley Tisdale's character Sharpay, and over the course of the film he's kind of a little bit more distant from his friends, and his friends who are also working there feel like he's not really spending time with them, that his focus isn't really correct, and Vanessa Hudgens' character Gabrielle is definitely thinking like he is not spending a lot of time with her and starts to feel like there's some distance growing between them. Going back to what I was saying about these characters in the last portion of my review though, yeah, I just feel like they kind of give Troy a harder time in these films than he really deserves. The dude is just trying to better his future, and in most of these cases, it's like his friends are just super selfish, and yeah, I think that's definitely something that's present here in this movie. Overall, though, I think that this one definitely ups the ante when it comes to the music and a lot of the choreography, so I think this one is definitely one of the more entertaining ones in terms of that element. The story can, you know, be whatever for me, honestly. The story and these characters a lot of times, a lot of the dialogue, again, it's cheesy and it's enjoyable enough to follow, but it's just high school drama with very heightened, over-the-top dramatic reactions to things. And I think where this movie really shines, again, is in its music, with the best song without a doubt being Bet On It by Zac Efron, where he's actually singing in this movie. There is a really horrible cheesy effect during that song though, where he's looking down into some sort of river or pond, and there's a reflection of him, but it's not a true reflection in water or something that looks like he's actually reflected in water. It's just literally a mirrored image of the filming of him, so it looks so fake, it looks so bad, and that just is part of the cheesy part of this movie. There's so many moments of green screen, especially near the end, where it's just really bad. But when it comes to the characters and the music, I do find it to be an entertaining, good time. Again, it's cheesy and it's over the top in terms of its narrative, but you know, overall I find it to be a good time. Again, you have Ashley Tisdale in the mix, just trying to do her malicious deeds to ruin everything for everybody else, and she ends up falling short of that vision at the end of the movie, and then everybody kind of accepts her after she's already been kind of belittled a little bit, and then she kind of joins the crew, and in the next movie she's gonna be a bitch again. But yeah, my favorite songs in this movie were definitely Bet On It, What Time Is It, as well as You Are the Music in Me, specifically the version with Zac Efron and Vanessa Hudgens. I think Vanessa Hudgens is a lot stronger in this film in terms of her acting, especially a lot of her lip syncing. I didn't mention that in the earlier part of the review, but that was part of my issue with her performance in the first movie, and I think she definitely does better here, with my least favorite song being that Hawaiian song. I can't even remember what the title is, that Ashley Tisdale is specifically performing. Yeah, I'm not a fan at all of that song. That one was really hard to get through. It's a really boring portion of the film, and you're just kind of watching, just rolling your eyes the entire time. So let's go ahead and move on over to High School Musical 3, and I'll pass it on again to my friend Mike from Did You See That to share his thoughts, and then we'll get back to mine.
And we're back for High School Musical 3, where you can clearly tell the production was amped up by 1,000 in this movie because of just the production alone, especially in I Want It All, that is performed by Sharpay and Ryan. You could just tell, I was like, wow, I was like, the production's gone up way more than 2006, 2007 movies for sure. With all right, because at the end of the day, it's a cinematic release, so they want to kind of get that push behind them. And I wish that the first two movies kind of had that at the same time to kind of match the third one. But anyway, what I like about this movie is there's a good couple of songs in here. We've got Now or Never. We've also got Scream, which is another Zac Efron solo song, which is awesome. Not as good as Bet On It, but I still like the song. And I don't really think I have a kind of worse song in this movie. Again, all of our cast and crew return, apart from two brand new additions this time. We've got characters called Donnie and Jimmy the Rocket Man. Now, I'm very conflicted on these two characters. I get why they kind of served a little bit of a purpose in this movie, but I also felt they were kind of like filler, or also kind of like trying to wedge them in to maybe push this series more movies or into a TV series like after that point, because I know in the last couple of years we got a TV series eventually, but I felt like they were kind of trying to go for a fourth film including these two characters that I didn't really like. I don't know if anyone actually really liked them, but anyway, High School Musical 3 production is definitely far better for sure. Troy Bolton, again, Zac Efron, I think at this level was at the epitome of his acting in these movies. You can tell he was ready to break the mold of High School Musical and branch out, which I'm so glad that he did because he was awesome. Again, be honest with you, I don't really mind the cast in this movie. I think it's perfectly casted, whether they do a fantastic job or whether they do a mediocre job, because the thing is, they all have their moments to kind of shine, and the relatability factor, because in this one, they're obviously getting to the end of the school year and graduating school. I'm sure Perez can kind of fill me on the terminology over in America. But yeah, I really like the aspect of that. And yeah, I know it's set back again once in the school for sure. But I also like that they've also grown and matured at this point. And I felt that kind of maturity show a little bit in this movie, especially with the relationship with Troy and his dad, or between him and Gabriella, because they want different things in life. And Troy's thinking, well, do I want to go my basketball route, or do I actually want to go the musical route because of the two passions that he has? I would say that personally, I felt like they kind of did a bit of a cop-out at the end, and instead of making to choose one or the other, because he chooses both. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm sure that is plausible, but over here in England, when you go to university, which is the higher education, like college, for example, in America, you can kind of only choose like one topic, I believe, but he chooses two, and I was a bit like, well, the amount of work he's going to have to do for both of them, I'm sure he's probably not going to be able to manage as such, because both of them are going to be demanding. But anyway, that's here or there. And I definitely think Kenny Ortega in this one had a lot more to explore with also. And I think he kind of utilised that previous choreography, especially in all three movies. The choreography is awesome and it's so well done. But I think especially in this third movie, it was just amped up, and you can kind of just feel that throughout each and every single scene that played out. And I also will say that out of the three movies, my kind of ranking, I don't really rank them, but I would say it'd be number 2, then number 1, then number 3, because by all means, all good movies, all enjoyed them, and I all kind of had tapping moments, or I actually sang along to them because I knew the songs. I will say that I felt like in number 3, the only thing for me that personally let it down was, again, didn't care about Sharpay or whatever she had going on. Really don't care. She could have gone and done one by now. But yeah, I would say kind of my overall negative for the movie is it felt like it had so much bigger production value in it, which is great, don't get me wrong, but it feels kind of out of place to the other two. And I felt, in a sense, that third movie kind of lost the magic a little bit of the first two had, but it could be because the first two had that like rawness and just Disney Channel plus original movies, which I don't think anyone maybe expected how big it was going to be and how long it was going to last for. So anyway, Anthony, my man, thank you so much for having me on for all three movies. Really enjoyed talking about them all. Am I looking forward to Sharpay's Fabulous Adventure? Not in the slightest, my friend, but we'll get to that in another day. But man, back over to you and your remaining thoughts on the High School Musical.
Thanks again, Mike, so much for being in this video. Loved hearing your thoughts on this whole series, man. And all of you who are watching this, if you're not already subscribed to Mike's channel, you guys can find the link to his channel down below in the description box. Go give him some love, let him know I sent you. But for now, a big thanks again to Mike for joining me, and I look forward to our next collab as we move forward. And I think you'll see him a lot sooner than you think, as he's actually going to be joining me for the X-Men series that I'm currently working on. So again, a big thanks to Mike, and let's go ahead and wrap up my thoughts now on this franchise with the third in the series, my first time viewing of High School Musical 3. So yeah, like I mentioned earlier, this was the very first one that came out in theaters, and yeah, I remember like seeing the hype and the buzz around it, but at the time, again, I wasn't really seeking this franchise out. I wasn't really seeking these movies out, and ultimately, yeah, you know, it was just something that I was just kind of about throughout. So I missed this one in theaters and I missed it altogether, but I finally just saw it and I could say I really enjoyed this one. Without a doubt, it's the best made film because it's a theatrically released film. They definitely had a bigger budget, and you can tell from the opening number of this film, the cinematography, the lighting, the costume design, the look, the feel, the vibe, and the performances. Everything about it felt so much more cinematic, and it definitely led to this one being one of the most appealing to look at, especially when it comes to its musical numbers. And overall, I gotta say, I found this to be a really strong installment in the series, easily the best made. I don't know if it's necessarily my favorite in terms of its overall narrative, but it's definitely the one with the strongest narrative structure, as well as the one with the better performances, again, musical numbers, and set design, production design all around. The production value of this film in comparison to the first two is light years better than the both of them, and you can definitely tell everybody came to play when it came to filming this movie. And thankfully, I don't really have a worse song in this movie. There's definitely lesser songs, but there's not one that really came out as an annoying or not so great song in the movie to me, like I did with the first and the second film. Whereas my favorite ones for this one were Now or Never, and then the final song, High School Musical. That moment at the end where they're really wrapping it up with the final number, I found myself getting a little bit wrapped up in the emotions. I found myself kind of having a little bit of a misty eye certain situation going on. I didn't cry any tears or anything, but I found myself a little bit more wrapped up in what was going on in these characters' journeys. And maybe that was the nostalgia of kind of growing up with these films. Maybe that was just, enjoying them as a trilogy really close to one another. But whatever the case may be, I found myself really invested in the characters, especially in that final moment. I just found that I had enjoyed the series a lot more than I actually expected myself to. And I think if you're somebody who's ever been on the fence about the High School Musical series, this is definitely a series to kind of go out there and check it out, see if it's something that interests you. And I think that you'll find yourself repeating some of these songs and some of these cheesy lines of dialogue a lot more than you actually expect yourself to. So yeah, guys, that's going to be my thoughts on the High School Musical series. Overall, I enjoyed myself going back and revisiting these films. Even if there were eye-rolly, cheesy moments and elements about it that definitely didn't hold up, I did find it to be a good time. So again, a big thanks to my buddy Mike from Did You See That for joining me for these videos. A big thanks to him. You guys can find the link to his channel down below in the description box. And I'll go ahead and wrap this up by thanking you guys again for watching, asking you to hit that like button because it really does help the channel out, as well as leave your thoughts. Are you a fan of this franchise? Are you not a fan of this franchise? Have you seen these movies? Have you not seen these movies? Whatever the case may be, comment those thoughts down below, as well as hitting that subscribe button if you guys enjoy the channel, because there's way more coming and I would love for you guys to be a part of that. So a big thanks to you guys for watching again, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye.